Hi, my name is Shadyish, and I am a complete noob at Doom Eternal. I played it on Hurt Me Plenty, which is the second easiest difficulty, and was complete and utter trash. I died to the easiest things ever and had no sense of direction, movement, or how to use my weapons properly. This video is where that changes. I'm gonna finish Doom Eternal on Nightmare mode, which from what I've heard is extremely difficult. There's obviously gonna be Doom spoilers, so if you don't want that, play Doom Eternal and come back once you're done. If you do end up enjoying this video, please like, subscribe, and comment below. As I said in the last video, I really want to get to 150 subs by the end of the year.
Until it is done.
I was actually shitting bricks going into the first level, Hell on Earth. So I started the level and it was surprisingly easy. I went through the introduction room pretty easily, then unlocked my first weapon mod, the sticky bomb. This just let me shoot a bomb that stuck to enemies from my shotgun. After a while, I got to a room with this old guy named Deeg Nillox, and killed him. This brought me to an outside area. It was nice to have some more freedom in movement by being outside. I also unlocked a full auto weapon mod for my shotgun. But this outside area also introduced me to an enemy called the Arachnotron. The Arachnotron had a cannon on its back that could be destroyed to make it easier to deal with. I killed a few more enemies and unlocked a new gun, the heavy cannon. This gun was able to rapid fire. There are a few choke points, aka difficult sections throughout the level, including an Arachnotron in a really tight hallway. I finished that section and got to another choke point. This was just a big fight with a hell of a lot of enemies. I beat the section by using movement to my advantage to get around enemies and dodge attacks. I unlocked the final weapon mod of the level, which I used on my heavy cannon, the precision bolt. This weapon mod allowed me to zoom in with the heavy cannon and deal a lot of damage. I also unlocked a frag grenade somewhere along this level. Finally, I ran through the rest of the level and finished it. I was slowly learning the Doom dance. Before starting the second level, Exaltia, I unlocked the Flame Belch. This not only did damage, but made the enemies drop more armor. Anyway, I started the level, ran through a little bit, and unlocked the Blood Punch. This allowed me to deal a lot of damage to enemies, even creating a shockwave around the actual punch. I also unlocked a dash ability which increased movement heavily. This level was extremely parkour and puzzle based. The combat wasn't very different from the first level though. The first big fight had many heavy demons attacking me at once. I also unlocked a plasma rifle. I got to another outside section and there was another huge choke point with multiple different enemies. I unlocked missiles for my heavy cannon, did some more parkour around a lava section, and the level was finished. The third level was called Cultist Base. Before loading it up, I unlocked the Ice Bomb, which is like the frag grenade but it freezes enemies. I ran through until I got to a ridiculously hard choke point. There was an extremely tiny hallway that spawned a Mancubus. A Mancubus is really tanky, has weak points on its arms, and looks like a Discord mod. But that guy wasn't the problem. The problem was the two other Mancubus that spawned immediately after I killed the first one. I was stuck on this section for ages until eventually I killed them by chainsawing the first one and finishing the other off with a blood punch and my weapons. After this, there was a pretty easy outdoor section, and once I finished off the enemies, I unlocked my best asset yet, a rocket launcher. The rocket launcher is pretty self-explanatory. After a few more rooms, I unlocked my first weapon mod for the rocket launcher, Lock On. With this mod, I could lock on to enemies and shoot 3 rockets at them. Not too long after, I got to an indoor section which led me to a Revenant. However, this one was different. I was able to control this one. I could use rockets and a jetpack, and it was pretty cool. Too bad it didn't take long until I got my next weapon, the Super Shotgun, and had to switch back to the Doomslayer. The Super Shotgun was just like the regular shotgun, except on steroids, plus it had a grapple hook called the Meat Hook. The rest of the level wasn't too interesting, except for a very goofy glitch I found where I clipped into the ceiling. I did not try to get this glitch, but I did somehow, and once I reset my checkpoint, I fought through to the end of the level. The next level to beat was called Doom Hunter Base. The start of this level was actually pretty easy, but I got to a room that was ridiculously hard. Heavy demons spawned all around me and I got my health shredded every single time I stopped moving. After about 40 minutes, the room was complete and I moved on. After that, I thought surely that was it, surely that was the hardest room in the level. Spoiler alert, I was wrong. I fought through to some decently tough rooms and got stuck at a platforming section because I didn't know where to go, only to realize that the simplest solution was right in front of me the entire time. After the platforming section, there was a boss fight, the first boss fight. I had to fight a Doom Hunter with a bunch of demons harassing me everywhere I looked. I kept on dying and eventually I caved and used a sentinel battery. I'm sorry, I know I sinned. And straight after that boss fight I got teleported somewhere else and another 2 Doom Hunters fucking spawned. Just my luck. Although this section was surprisingly easier than the last one, I didn't need a sentinel battery for this section. This section was, however, extremely stressful. Eventually, Doom Hunter base was done, and I killed another old guy named D. Grenak. After Doom Hunter base, I was able to go back to my fortress and I unlocked a new gun called the Ballista. The Ballista was a laser gun. It dealt a lot of damage and had a lot of recoil. After unlocking the Ballista, I went on to the 5th level, Super Gore Nest. For my last playthrough, I remembered this level being really hard, and while that stayed somewhat true, it was made a lot easier because of the fact that I was getting way better at movement and awareness, although this level kind of forced me to. The first section was a fight with waves of enemies, and it was hard, but eventually, I finished it. This level also introduced something called a buff totem. The buff totem buffs all demons around it, as the name suggests. It was an interesting way to spice up gameplay because it made me look around to find and destroy the totem. I also unlocked a mod for my ballista called the Destroyer Blade. This mod allowed me to charge up a blade shot like a slingshot and shoot it at enemies, dealing massive amounts of damage. This level also just randomly shoved some manky pussy in my face when I performed the glory kill. After a while, I unlocked the final weapon of this mission, the chain gun. This weapon is self-explanatory. One notable room in this level was a really bad checkpoint which spawned me on like 40 health right before a fight in a tight hallway. I then went through and finished the level. The level after Super Gore Nest was called Arc Complex. This level was genuinely very fun, but interestingly, I don't think the level design was the main reason. In this level, combat felt less like a chore and more like something that I wanted to do. Obviously, there were some annoying rooms. In fact, one of the rooms was very iconic for being hard. This room had tons of enemies and multiple waves of them as well. But this didn't bother me. In fact, this room forced me to understand more about the game. I was finally figuring out how to use my equipment right. This could range from using the right weapons in the right situations to using flame belches and ice bombs strategically. I was also getting really efficient at quick switching to deal damage to tankier enemies faster. Even my aim was getting noticeably better. But at the end of the level, there was a marauder. I couldn't stand too close to the marauder, otherwise he shotgunned me away, but I couldn't stay too far away either because he threw projectiles at me. He also had a shield that blocked all damage. The only way to hit him was by stunning him with my super shotgun when he was vulnerable. It was safe to say I was quite scared, but I kind of already knew what to do and cleared this guy in less than 10 seconds by quick swapping between my super shotgun and my ballista to deal massive damage to him. The 8th mission was Mars Core. This level was about blowing a hole into Mars.
Nobody knows.
Just shoot a hole into the surface of Mars.
Oh yes, I can. This level was pretty easy. I ran through, blew a hole in Mars, then unlocked the BFG. This gun shoots a blast that can clear a room easily. It's basically like a last resort if you're cornered by demons. There were also weaker Doom Hunters in this level that were pretty easy to kill. The rest of this level really wasn't very hard, I just kinda completed it pretty easily. The next level was called Sentinel Prime, and let me tell you, I was not ready for it. I ran through the first part and there were no enemies, but I knew exactly what was coming. There was a boss fight. This guy was called the Gladiator and he had 2 phases. The first phase was where he had a shield and I had to hit him when he was vulnerable. This phase was pretty easy and it was kinda like fighting a marauder but bigger. I broke his shield and the second phase started. In the second phase, he didn't have his shield, but he was a lot more aggressive. He had various attacks for different situations. His attack hitboxes were also whack, so attacks that shouldn't have hit me, many times. He could even spin his mace and become invincible for a period of time. After this period of time, he either became vulnerable or just attacked me. This tricked me out so many times. His final annoying move was a jump rope section where I had to jump over these beams of electricity, and right after he just lunged at me and attacked me. This boss fight didn't take too long, but it was extremely infuriating. But I was not going to embarrass myself again and use sentinel armor for this fight, so I kept going, resisting the temptation whenever it arose. After a while, I had an extremely good run by spamming him with everything I had. I killed him with 5 HP left. I got him. Then I killed yet another old guy, and the level was over. And yes, this level was literally just a boss fight. Mission 10 was called Taras Nabad. The beginning of Taras Nabad was pretty easy. There were a few heavy demons, but most importantly, a marauder. My strategy for this part wasn't too complicated. I killed the heavy demons quickly, killed the cacodemon, finished off the fodder demons, then killed the marauder with the same strategy I used previously. The first stupid section in this level introduced me to an enemy that gave me severe flashbacks to my last playthrough, the Archvile. The Archvile was a super heavy demon that could spawn buffed demons. The Archvile was like a buff totem, except he could fight you back, teleport, create a shield, and spawn enemies infinitely. This guy wasn't as hard as I thought. My best strategy was to try and find the Archvile as fast as I could, then spam him with my BFG. The room was finished after a few deaths and I moved on. A few puzzles, quite a few deaths, and another Archvile later, I got to another annoying area. The beginning of this area spawned a few relatively easy to kill heavy demons. The problem came later on when more heavy demons spawned in along with a marauder. You know how I said that marauders were really easy to kill? Yeah, fuck that. When there are other enemies around, the marauder is so dumb. I tried this part for an infuriating 40 minutes until I finished it. My strategy was to kill the heavy demons, then lure the marauder away to kill them separately. After a very long time, it was over, except I wasn't even halfway through the level yet. Thankfully, the rest of the level was really easy. I fought my way through and unlocked another tool, the Crucible. This blade could kill almost anything in one hit, including Archviles. The downside was that ammo was really sparse. When I went back to the Fortress of Doom, I realized I was on the final stretch of the game. When I left for the next level, Necrovol Part 1, I couldn't come back to the fortress, so before I started for the level, I used 8 of the 9 sentinel batteries that I apparently had to get some upgrades. I explored the fortress for a bit and was ready for Necrovol Part 1. The level began with me at a disadvantage. I was going up a staircase and there were a few heavy demons. I disposed of them quickly and moved on. There was then a big fight with a new enemy, the Tyrant. He was just very large and had an ass ton of health. This was pretty easy to get through because I timed a power up pretty well and killed the Tyrant in seconds. The next major fight was a mini boss fight. I had to destroy these eye things while enemies spawned. It was very easy. After a little bit, there was a fight that gave me severe trouble on my last playthrough. The beginning of this fight started with heavy demons who weren't too hard to kill, then an Archvile spawned. I thought this was going to be way harder, but I just BFG'd him and killed the rest of the enemies. 1 Marauder, 2 Doom Hunters, and a massive fight later, the level was over. Because Necrovol was split into Necrovol Part 1 and 2, I went on to Necrovol Part 2. I accidentally wasted 2 extra lives at the beginning, which was pretty embarrassing. But eventually, I got to a room with a bunch of demons. It took me a few tries, but I wasn't worried. This room was the least of my concerns. The next big fight was a room with a few heavy demons. I took them out, and an Archvile spawned. I easily killed him with my go-to, the BFG. Then, a Marauder came out of nowhere and started harassing me, but the Marauder was really easy on its own. I then did a bit more parkour and got to the final fight of the level. This fight had many waves of enemies and no checkpoint. The first wave had a Tyrant and some other heavy demons. This section took me a few tries, but eventually, I got it pretty well. When the second wave spawned in, I used a BFG shot to kill almost everything in the wave except for a big Baron of Hell. I killed that guy, and then a Doom Hunter spawned. The Doom Hunter was really easy when I kept my distance and strategically spammed with everything I had. I then went on to finish the level and there were only 2 levels left, Urdak and the Final Sin. Urdak was pretty easy, but I knew there was something coming later in the level. I fought through the level pretty easily. It was decently hard with some Marauders, Doom Hunters, Archviles, and Tyrants. Also, on another note, the platforming in this level is really dumb. Anyway, eventually I got to a boss fight, the Khan Maker. I remember this boss being basically the hardest boss to fight ever. Last time I fought her, it took me like 3 hours. To kill the Khan Maker, I had to deal damage to her, then meat hook her with my super shotgun and blood punch her. I had to repeat this process 6 times without dying. Safe to say, I was scared. But it actually was way easier than I expected. It took me less than 5 tries. I just took her health down with a rocket launcher, then punched her. After not too long, the Khan Maker was defeated, and there was only 1 level left. I was finally at the end of my journey. I was at the last level, the Final Sin. This level was going to test everything I'd learned about the game up until this point. This level had some challenging rooms with tons of enemies. There was one room I was stuck on for a really long time due to there being multiple waves full of tyrants, marauders, and more. Anyway, the level was done and there was a boss fight. The last boss fight of Doom Eternal, the Icon of Sin. This guy had 2 phases. In the first phase, I had to knock off his armor with hundreds of enemies harassing me, and in the second phase, it was the same, but I had to destroy his flesh. I got through the first phase by spamming my BFG and swapping between my chain gun and ballista. It took me a while, but I went through the portal to the second phase. This phase stumped me a lot. I tried to do the same strategy that he used in the last phase, and that didn't work. There were shit tons of enemies like before, but the catch for this phase was that the longer I kept the Icon of Sin alive, the stronger and more aggressive he became. There were insta-kill lasers, the Icon of Sin could fling me across the room, and not to forget meteors. Now I'm not a weather expert, but that sounds like 100% chance of bullshit. After about 2 hours, my strategy was finally done. On my winning attempt, I spammed rockets and super shotgun bullets at him along with the occasional BFG shot. After doing that for a while, he was dead. I crucibled him in the head, and it was over. This 3.5 hour level was done. So finally, I completed Doom Eternal Nightmare. You may be asking, what did you get for your efforts? I don't know, bragging rights I guess? I thought I was gonna get skin or something, but nothing. But on the positive side of things, my Doom skills increased massively. My movement was more fluid, my sense of direction was way better, and most importantly, my use of equipment was insanely more efficient. But this game basically forced me to learn these things. It was brutally unforgiving in the best way possible. If I didn't use a dash in a specific spot, dead. If I didn't get armor from flame belching an enemy, dead. If I stopped moving for just a second or two, dead. But that's what I loved about this experience. Also, big Doom Eternal fans may be thinking that Nightmare isn't the hardest difficulty, and that's technically true, but also wrong. There's a mode called Ultra Nightmare. It's exactly the same as Nightmare, except if you die, you restart the campaign. When I started this video, I thought that was impossible. But after this playthrough, it doesn't seem as far away. So, what's next?